Well, good afternoon and welcome to another in our series of Talk Sports. It's the weekend edition, which we call the Saturday Sports Special, where we chat with the movers and shakers in sports, including the sportsmen, sportswomen, and administrators, past and present. Well, this week, we have the pleasure of a statesman, an educator, an administrator, a farmer, and the list goes on. But you will understand why I say the list goes on. I'm speaking about the headmaster emeritus, the Grenada Boys Secondary School, and also the Westmoreland Secondary School, a former supervisor of elections in Grenada, also the chairman of the interim committee of the Grenada Steelband Association. Folks, I am speaking about no other person than Mr. Victor Ashby. I welcome Mr. Victor Ashby to our program, Saturday Sports Special. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Ashby.
Good afternoon, Michael. I hasten to say that this is special to me, so the name is very apt. I am with technology now.
Yes, you are.
Can you imagine? I thought I wasn't going to straddle those kinds of rails at all.
Right.
But you can't escape it.
Yeah.
So
well, nice
I am grateful for pleased with the invitation. I am also to commend you on your initiative, because it's the first time I have heard and first time I'm sharing in a program of the type that you have created. And so I wish you every success, not only for this evening's engagement, but for all the engagement which went, all the engagement in the immediate present, and all the engagements to come.
Okay, well, nice of you, Mr. Ashby, and I welcome you. And as we have done in previous programs, as a matter of fact, this is program number 67, I think, but we have
67.
Yes, we have been counting.
You're going well.
Quite a
few.
Years.
You will hit the 100 mark not long from now.
Sooner or later. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure. Only on Thursday, rather, we link up live with Andre Fletcher from New Zealand.
Very good.
Yeah,
yes, very nice, very nice.
He's on his way to Australia, where he's will be playing in the Big Bash League.
Oh, very well. Yes,
that's
very good,
nice.
very good.
And then hopefully next Saturday we link up. We go to Trinidad to link up with Mr. Bobby Benjamin, the former. You know Mr. Bobby Benjamin, the former president of the Grenada Athletic Association. Right.
That's correct.
So we are in good company. But I want to start off, Mr. Ashby, by asking you, as I have done with most of our guests, how have you been coping? I mean, I've seen your mask. I know you're very conscious. How have you been coping with the pandemic?
Well, I would say well. Technically well. There is the common sense that's necessary with the human practice. There is no way we must try to be brave and bold because we might be proven stupid. Suffice the science leads, the science speaks. The science asks for a set of do's, and it's only necessary that those do's be done. So in fact, when I started chatting with you this afternoon, I thought I was going to see you masked as well, because the situation is so strong that the message must be equally strong. But I understand we are in separate bubbles, and as such, our audience understands. But suffice, even from the point of view of the culture and the music, I am to tell you that you take Steelband, the association, and I'm the president, not the interim. Please note, like tomorrow, God willing, we have a function with the public, Pan on the Sand. And in that function and for that function, it is at the Wildwoods Park. Everything is available to patrons and the panists. And in that function, for that function, we will be no less than 100% COVID protocol applied. So relative to the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, I would say that it is a matter of dealing with it with this sound common sense and obedience.
Well, yes. Very well said. Very well said, Mr. Ashby. And we have quite a lot to discuss because I know, yes, you carried so you know, that many, as I indicated, apart from the PAN, you know, you were also involved in, I think, in one of the commodity boards, where I think it's Nutmeg.
Yeah, of course.
Right, Nutmeg, and particularly as a principal, and by way of disclosure, I should let my the audience know that I entered the GBSS with Mr. Ashby as the principal, and I departed the four walls of the institution with Mr. Ashby as the principal. But Mr. Ashby, if you let's zoom in and you know, kick off with your tenure as principal, particularly of the GBSS, in excess of, you know, probably almost 30 years, I should say.
Yeah, almost.
Yes, almost 30 years. What would you define as the, you know, the major achievement of your tenure at the GBSS for that almost 3 decades?
You'll be surprised. There is a set of umpteen things that I can make reference to. But the one that will be uppermost on the list is the fact that we managed to ensure that the GBSS was on stable, even keel as the leadership institution in secondary education in Grenada, and that we were able to demonstrate. When I say we, I mean staff and students. We were able to demonstrate the actions that strengthen the claim for the leadership in secondary education in Grenada. Let me tell you this piece. I don't think I've said it anywhere before. I mean public. On at least 2 occasions, I was directed, may I say, instructed by the Minister of Education to report to a new office in education. In fact, 2 new offices. I was headmaster of GBSS, and the minister instructed me, let's say like the Friday, school closed on the Friday for the weekend, and the minister instructed me on Monday morning, report to a new office. First, it was the office of the Chief Education Officer. Second, it was the office of the Permanent Secretary in Education. On each occasion, I responded as per the minister's instruction. I reported the Monday morning in time for 8 o'clock to be sat with the minister. I was sat with the minister, and she outlined why she had asked that I do that which I just described. And on each occasion, I convinced her that in the name of education and for the well-being and success of education, that decision was not a good one. And on each occasion, I was allowed to return to the GBSS. Of course, there are other times I could have moved. So I say all of that to say that the interest in ensuring that the GBSS was on very balanced keel, very steady keel, very smooth keel, and not just poised, but trajectoried towards its, not takeoff, towards its higher levels of flight. That was number one. Everything else, however strong it might be, pales into second place. And when I speak of the GBSS being programmed to be on even balanced scale, I am here highlighting not me, not staff, but I am highlighting all of the students who were able to be sat at the masters and mistresses' feet from 2018 to 2007. And I might say that on the basis of that, it is really well with my educational soul.
Yeah, well, quite a bit, you know, and indeed it's news to quite a to a lot of us, because I know, Mr. Ashby, there's so many things that you can discuss with us, you can share with us, but time will tell, and I'm hoping that before you depart this earth, you will be able to document.
It's in the making. It's in the making. Just the
glad to know that.
The appropriate.
Yeah, well, glad to know that. But interesting enough, Mr. Ashby, during your tenure at the GBSS as well, the whole aspect of sports formed an integral part of the learning process at the GBSS. You, for one, as a principal, took sports so serious that even when the GBSS participated in not the secondary schools, but I'm talking about the local tournaments, like especially the cricket, St. George's Cricket League, for example, you yourself as principal, you are a player,
That's correct.
You played among the boys,
Played with the boys.
Yeah, you played with the boys, right?
Yes.
But so my question to you, Mr. Ashby, is that what was the thinking behind your involvement as a principal, playing with the boys and ensuring that the GBSS always, whether it's basketball, whether it's cricket, whether it's track and field, just name it, the GBSS well represented?
I hasten, because this is such a big one. Examine the school song. Examine the school song. The team wins the match at football, and football represents sport. Netball, cricket, basketball, athletics, the team, table tennis, lawn tennis, the team wins the match at football. Though one man
must kick the goal.
Must kick the goal.
Yeah.
That's the school song. So from day one, student and teacher, any new teacher, any new student, from day one should imbibe the curricular and the co-curricular marriage for the program of the GBSS. More than that, the GBSS grew from its foundation, not just on cricket and scholarship, not just on sport and scholarship, or not just on scholarship and sport. And that's the order that is necessary to put it, because in the culture of the GBSS, except you perform in scholarship, it is regarded that you have to back off sports, get your performance in scholarship right, and then combine again. Fortunately for our boys, fortunately for our girls, they were ready before they came in for both endeavors in education. And then there's a second point. No education is complete. No education is complete without the fullest ingredient of sports and the other forms of the co-curricular. Because the graduate is not just for the thoughts, the graduate is for the application of the thought. And one can only apply the thought well if during the education he has the opportunity to so do. So it is also necessary to note that the boys, however good they are at the stage at the GBSS, the leadership at the level of the staff was always necessary. More than that, the conditions for the GBSS play in at least cricket and football allowed for the inclusion of a member of staff. So in cricket, Kajitan Hood and I were the able members, and so we did not hold back. In football, Kajitan Hood, his leadership was always there. And I mean, for a significant part of my tenure, quite apart from the presence of the games teacher. These are masters. Their leadership, very important, relative to the discipline, relative to the conduct, relative to inspired performance, and relative to application of the thinking skills. When you hit the business of inspired performance, I mean, basketball, throughout, whether it's the C. Wilcox, whether it's the Hazard, I'm talking Jason Hazard, with the famous 4-peat, 4 years successive dominance of basketball, whether it's the athletics, and the list is endless. But I just want to mention, among the long list I can mention, a special mention of Jeffrey Neptune, not just for his ability in long jump or throwing the discus or the shot put, but the fact that he was like a 10 event man. And for each event, he had the ability of gold. The 4, he was top 4, top 2, and top 1. Well, don't talk about 4x4. I also wish to speak, and that's Jeffrey, and on that side, and there are endless other examples. Inspired performance. Then there is athletics. There is this girl, Daria Nicholas, Portia Nicholas's sister. This girl single-handedly represented the GBSS in the girls division of INTERCOL and scored more points as an individual. She was a one-man team. We were phasing out the girls. And she scored more points than many schools which had big girls teams. The football, well, the football is a staple. It's a staple for the GBSS. And of course, don't hesitate to observe that the GBSS represented at the level of the Premier League, and it was not a glorified representation. We took the boys at the level of Form 3 with Anthony Modeste and young Murray, that's Junior Murray's brother, and guided that team all the way from the junior division all the way up to the winnership of the Premier League, champion Premier League team. That wasn't just skill. Skill is important, but it was that driving force to achieve and deliver at the level of the school song. The highest we shall attain. Endeavor enhances merit. Because if you slack, the Foley's tool will be your standard. The Foley's tool, endeavor enhances merit. The slacker is Foley's tool. Yeah. So that's and this is the case with all sports at the level of the GBSS. Whether it is table tennis, you know, the Thomases and so on, whether it is, well, we knocked basketball already, netball with the girls, never held back with the girls. The girls were tech with the boys in everything. We didn't treat those girls as though they were any level different to the boys. The girls were promoted, the girls were trained, the girls were inspired just as the boys. In fact, their performance was just as the boys.
Yes.
And I say no more on that.
Well, Mr. Ashby, you know, I knew it would have been such that from the moment time we start the program, the comments will be coming in. And
hold.
Tell me.
I finished that one. I really must say that you remember football is the standard bearer for sports at the GBSS because it is immortalized in the school song. But that which take the cake by way of delivery at the absolute international level is cricket. And I can't close this section without ensuring that that is clearly highlighted. Junior Murray is the premier. Junior Murray is the premier achiever in cricket in Grenada and Grenada for the West Indies. And I'm so pleased. I am so pleased with that sharing. But remember, we have a hand in Ron Lewis. By that I mean Ron Lewis selection as a West Indies cricketer had a direct input of the GBS's contribution.
Well, and I can say, well, when he was on the program, he actually alluded to that when he appeared on the program.
Yes, and it was not as a glorified student, as a student on the ground of the GBSS. Mm-hmm. And I don't know you know this one. Devon Smith. Devon Smith was recruited by me to come and settle himself at the GBSS and to begin to move on balance keel. He didn't stay long because he was recruited, selected by Joey Carew of the Queen's Park Club to join the club in Trinidad and to play and earn. And so just before he joined that Queen's Park Club, he was in the record as having come from his alma mater, the McDonald College, to the compound of the Grenada Boys Secondary School. It is from that kind of milieu he went to Trinidad, as you know. And it is from that kind of combination he then earned his place on the West Indies cricket team. And so I just highlight that, not because they stand alone, but because they're visible to all and sundry.
And I assume you still add the Kirani James factor a little later on.
And oh Lord, no. I should have dealt with the Kirani James when I dealt with Jeffrey Neptune. Because the Kirani James is more than West Indies, you know. He is more than West Indies. He is world. He is world. And his rise, I consider to be meteoric. Meteoric. He earned the gold medal in 2016 at the Olympic. Whereas the GBSS had programmed him to win the gold medal in 2020. That is like this year. What, 2016 or 2012?
2012, the first gold, that's the Olympic gold medal in London.
No. I made an error with the 2016 one. 2012, we had programmed Kirani, his timing and all, to earn the gold medal in 2016. That's the Olympic.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah.
So, yes, so his development was rather rapid, and you must factor in that which he earned by way of preparation at the GBSS. And while the world gold is quite a feat, I always consider the Olympic to be at a level that is outstanding. The gold at the World Games, that championship, is an absolute feat, and no one can take anything from the quality there. But you see that Olympic, where the world plus converge and compete because of what that represents. I give that the beacon.
I said, Mr. Ashby, that and I don't want to leave our folks out because I know the commendations, the comments, they're coming in, and I wanted to get some of them in because sometimes we lose touch with those. So let me go over to some of those.
I will say anytime.
Yes, Joel Phillip, and you will know that name is a name you would have called.
Well, he is as outstanding as all the others.
Yeah, I am grateful for the structure that we had at the GBSS with Mr. Ashby's leadership. I believe we were given the best opportunities to be well-rounded young men, and he ended by non palma sine labore. Then there's also Michael Richards. Listening to you, sir, brings upon me a feeling of pride and nostalgia. I'm honored to have sat at your feet as a GBSS boy. Long live the GBSS and long live Chief as well.
Well, we batted. We batted.
And Jacinta Grant, who is actually the president of the Old Boys, Old Girls Association here in New York.
Very well.
Yeah, and she is saying that proud old girl indeed. And Lincoln Toro Deputy, GBSS, the best secondary school in the whole wide world.
That's the way.
Yeah. And so many of those coming in. Long live your legacy, son. May all be well with you. You have nurtured and shaped so many lives. GBSS history also includes the famous cadet course, swimming, and steel band.
Very well.
The steel band, yes, very interesting enough.
This is why what I'm doing now with the Grenada Steel Band Association is straight in line with GBSS.
Right. And Alexander, I'm very amazed and impressed at Mr. Ashby's memories and outstanding presentation of the GBSS sports history. Ken Alexander, great program.
Wow. That's Canada.
Yeah, that's Canada, So indeed, the comments are coming in, Mr. Ashby. The point now is that, especially, and I want to try to get in as much as possible because I know we have so much comment.
I remember there will be another time appropriate.
Yeah, the INTERCOL.
Yes.
And you yourself, as chairman at the time of the organizing committee of the Grenada Secondary Schools Games Association, I always try to get it correct.
Yeah, you have it.
Right, Secondary Schools Games, organizers of the Inter-Secondary School Athletic Championships over the years, and which basically highlights sports in Grenada to an extent, because we know that sports, like Jamaica, is school-based. Other islands is club-based. I know, for example, the Bahamas, where I visited often, club-based. Trinidad, to an extent, a lot of clubs, but Jamaica and Grenada, they have used it as a system where because it's school-based. The Boys and Girls Champs in Jamaica, for example, and the INTERCOL Championships in Grenada, they considered Jamaica 1, Grenada 2 in the Caribbean in terms of that. You have been the head of that organizing committee for many years. How important you saw the INTERCOL Championships for secondary schools, particularly in Grenada?
Very, very important. In fact, without the INTERCOL, the secondary schools in Grenada are without that guiding, and I'll be double barrel here. That guiding rudder, it's like the boat, tiller to lead, to steer. You see, the INTERCOL was more than athletics. It is the opportunity for the secondary system in Grenada to demonstrate its quality, where each one supports each one towards the end of outstanding delivery. That INTERCOL is the product of all of the secondary schools in Grenada. And I'm talking INTERCOL in its current shape. Previous to the current arrangement, as you well know, the INTERCOL had to start with 2 schools, 4 schools, the 2 schools, boys, GBSS and PBC. The 4 schools, GBSS, PBC, Anglican High, Convent. The 5, then a 5th school, with the inclusion of the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary. And so it built to the degree, not to the degree where it is now, with at least 22 schools, 22 secondary schools. And our INTERCOL is a delivery that demonstrates all of the best performances of what happens in and with schools. So when we go to INTERCOL, whether it's 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, we go with the public expectation that the secondary schools will demonstrate a standard that combines the scholarship or the academic and the sport. And that not only does the INTERCOL deliver the requisite exciting ingredients to inspire participants, meaning the athletes and the schools and the public, to go forth from the INTERCOL and improve and deliver in any and every category that he, she, or they is or are engaged in. The INTERCOL is that Philip in and for education at the secondary level, where secondary education comes directly with the public and inspires it. And please note, I say nothing about specific performances. My reference here is purely with the philosophical, the functional, and the application of the place of INTERCOL in the psyche of Grenada, as well as its place at the level of the secondary school performances. The INTERCOL inspires the CHC performance. In fact, it had inspired the GCE A and O levels. Because please remember, in the early days of the INTERCOL, the GBSS 6th form and the PBC 6th formers were a major part of the team, including the Anglican high schools and including the convents. So when it comes to the INTERCOL inspiring, and as it must, because I mean the ingredient of the INTERCOL is so strong that it doesn't only inspire school, but it inspires homes. It inspires nation. As you well know, it inspires the nation. When the intercall is unsung, whole nation, the whole nation is inspired. The whole nation is inspired. It is better than a general election in Grenada.
Yeah.
It is far more powerful than Carnival. The intercall is far more powerful in the psyche and in the functioning of this nation.
Yeah, well, it's known that when intercall is around, Grenada is on pause to an extent.
I am telling you, the whole place. And bear in mind, you don't only have to come to the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. No, because we also ensure that all of the people in Grenada benefit from seeing it wherever they are. In the homes, and when I say in the homes now, I mean the geriatrics, in all the schools, primary included, in the individual homes, so that the parents, if they can come to the stadium, can see their sons and daughters and can cheer and react on the streets. The intercall is everywhere at intercall time. It's like octopus.
Yeah, and over the years, so many proposals and so many initiatives, so many challenges as well, Mr. Ashby, in terms of the whole intercall evolving, in terms of 3 days, 2 days, the events, separate days for boys, separate days for girls, all sorts of things. What it is you think that will stand out in terms of the intercall as it is now compared to probably when you were around?
The extension into the days for the field events. Well, that extension started with me. So there was a third day. So intercall was more than 2. I saw intercall move from 1 day. 1 day, boys and girls on 1 day. I saw intercall move from a day for boys and a day for girls and a day for boys. I saw intercall move from 2 days to 2 days. That is day 1 for boys and girls, day 2 for boys and girls, with field events and track events. I also saw intercall move to 3 days. A day for field and 2 days for track. And the justification for the movement was in absolute good order. The whole intercall on 1 day was a challenge and a pressure for the athlete. Recovery time was not enough. I don't care how you turn that. So we had to move. The boys, the girls' day, and the boys' day also goes against the grain. Our secondary schools do not promote this selfishness necessarily. They combined girls and boys performing on both days is the formula. And then, of course, the fields, separate times, and then the athletics on day 1 and day 2. Now, all of that is good. But the field people, I mean athletes, do not get the opportunity to have the quality support of the INTERCOL public and the nation at large. And that is something to be addressed. They do their performances wherever, and they get their prizes, their medals, their awards, and so on. But that is not the, I will call it, that's not the package that the athletes must be settled on. That field aspect of the INTERCOL needs the audience as the athletics, as the track. The field needs the audience as the track in some shape and form. We know some of the shortcomings. That the stadium, the discuss and all those things, but the field people must perform before the audience of the track people. And more than that, when we brought the field people to perform in the arena of the track, we must, and you know, you have a day 1 and a day 2 and a day 3 and a day 4. We must also ensure that we bring the patrons to the sport in such a manner that the field people feel as well as the track people feel when they perform. Of course, I am noting that in the current form, we have a blended format. We have a blended format with track and field on whether it's 3 days, 4 days, and that's good. We have a blended format. But the first two, in fact, the first 3 days, not the first 2 days, or the first 3 days are a problem. The INTERCOL and Grenada are still culturally conditioned to results, the results of the INTERCOL. And they come to get everything in one day.
In one day.
Everything in one day. Whereas what the athletics and what INTERCOL needs is that whole embrace of the whole form of the sport to such a degree that it delivers not just the last day, but all of the days, whatever the package. Because in Jamaica, they have a whole week of it, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
While we sticking on sports for a while, and you know, and you said you're free to you want to talk, you want to discuss.
I just want to make sure that we leave no one out.
Yeah, there's so many things else, but two questions that came up, not directly to sports, one to Steelman and one as your junior tenure, and the question has to do with Mr. Ashby junior tenure as the as supervisor of elections in the parliamentary elections office, and whether or not, since yourself and Ms. Julie Benoit have departed, whether you have some concern for the controversies within the parliamentary election office.
I won't go there. I won't go there. There will always be concerns relative to the function of the Parliamentary Elections Office, which is the body and the instrument for the delivery of all elections that is free and fair and free from fear. And those concerns do not have to be real. I have experienced my share of supposed concerns. And so that's the nature of that office. Managing the concerns is more important to the supervisor and the office than public evidence of concern. I mean, I repeat, I had my fair share of, I'd say, supposed concerns, and they hail more from the politicians and political parties than coming from the John public electorate. And you have to manage that. I managed that. I managed it to the degree where I got the parties to refer their documentation and instrumentation to the office so as to be clear that that which they did was in sync with the Representation of the People Act. There was a time when a dominant political party prepared all of the candidates' instruments to have them participate in an election. And when this instrument, by a lawyer, and the lawyer was supposedly the writer, the author of the Representation of the People's Act, which is the instrument that the supervisor must follow. And when the party came with the completed instrument, I informed it, meaning the party, that they were all wrong and that they must be redone and resubmitted within the statutory time in order for the candidates to participate in the election. And what do you know? This architect who contributed in the composition of the People's Representation Act informed me that he was going to move an injunction, read that election, because of my observation and advice. And I merely say to him, go right ahead. There is always a counter motion. So you go right ahead. I heard nothing about injunction therefrom. All I know is that before the expiration of the stipulated time, the complete package as advised in terms of composition was at the desk of the supervisor of election in the manner expected by law. So concern you will have. How you manage them is the critical thing.
Yeah.
There will always be the reference to concern relative to the Parliamentary Elections Office.
Mm-hmm. The other one had to do, which is closer to sports, because there's a marriage between, as they say, sports and culture, you know, the steel band. Mr. Ashby, and how do you find the time, you know, to be so involved? I mean, you know, as we indicated, you know, steel band now, agriculture, you know, the farming community, your contribution to the farming community, and still you find time for sporting associations when they call upon you to assist in the elections, the annual general meetings, and all these.
Correct.
How do you find the time, Mr. Ashby? And a little on the steel band, your involvement in the steel band association, and you came in around a critical time when it was almost a steel band crisis, you know. Yeah.
I respect that observation that you make.
Yeah.
And yes. Well, to answer the easy part of the question, I answer first. Time, how you find time? It's a lot indeed on the page, and it's not slowing down. But everything boils down to management of time. Management of time, the day still has 24 hours. And when one goes to sleep and when one rises, depending on one's constitution, one finds that one is able to achieve quite a bit in whatever time that one finds to share with one's responsibilities. And so, however busy, however pressed an individual might be, you can manage time to deliver any responsibility that must be delivered. And I underscore must be delivered. And therein comes PAN. You have already said that PAN needed, that the Grenada Steel Band Association needed the input at the level of the current executive. And through its initiative, that's the association's initiative, sought to compose the quality, I would put that in inverted commas, the quality to help it establish level, even movement key. Its request was respected and is being pursued. Not for the sake of having another set of activities that PAN would easily provide, but bear in mind, as the GBSS, PAN is a foundation cultural activity of Grenada. PAN started with Calypso. Calypso started with PAN. It was not a steel pan as we know it now, but in order to get rhythm for the Calypso on the estates and on the farms, there had to be some background percussion and accompanying tone and you name it. So PAN is a foundation. And PAN is indeed a foundation West Indian instrument. It's the only musical instruments created in the 20th century and particularly assigned, and we in the 21st century, and particularly assigned to the West Indies. In a sense, it's like West Indies cricket. It's there. Pan is there. And so I could not allow a no to that interest. And the other members of the executive thought likewise. And so last year at the annual convention, which is like a annual general meeting and more, the membership, the delegates elected the executive to its first 2-year cycle. And of course, with that, with my good self as the head, as the president. And you would note that since then, together with the membership of the Grenada Steel Band Association, and with the membership of culture, and with the membership of the government, and with all those directly and indirectly related to the development and promotion of pan and culture, we have been working, the Grenada Steel Band Association has been working in tandem to the degree that COVID-19 or no COVID-19, we know we did not have Panorama 2020, but we do not make the fans of pan be left without pan. So in March, we had pan to honor Peck. We mourn his sad passing, but that was a timely stroke. Then in the carnival season, we had some bits of pan, July into August. Not Panorama, but we had some bits of pan. Then came October. We had a pan explosion at the Comancheros pan compound. And come tomorrow,
right?
Come tomorrow,
yeah,
please God, there will be pan on the sand at the Wildwood Park. Big endeavor for pan. Big program. And then come closer to the Christmas, there will be functional, programmed pan serenading in all of the parishes of Grenada. No parish would be left without pan at the Christmas time, including Carriacou. And there is a fledgling band as we speak in Carriacou. And so, connection with pan is not a minus, and it won't minus to my delivery of responsibility. Won't be a minus. It will actually be a plus, because it is in sync with education. 70% of the, at least 70% of the bands, at least 70% of all of our bands, and there are 10 functional operating bands, with another 5 taking shape as we speak since last year. In those bands, at least 70% are students of schools, boys and girls. And so you could well appreciate how important that is for that cadre of secondary school students to have consistency with their development pertinent to the secondary education program, with music, through pan, being a functional ingredient.
Yes, well, good to hear that, Mr. Ashby. And you know, while you're speaking, and I know names are coming in as well, and I, you know, indicated that you don't want to forget any. So as when one comes up, I'll remind you, Mr. Timothy Antwine.
Oh, really?
Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and let's not also forget Mr. Nimrod Oliver, who is a retired lieutenant of the NYPD. You were calling names, so I'm reminding you of some of the names, and these are they are like your sons, you know.
Yeah, indeed. Brilliant. I would likely see Timmy on Wednesday. That's and right. I am sure I will see Nimrod soon.
Before the end of 2020.
Before the end of 2020. I say no more. No more.
Okay. Ms. Ashby, you had a philosophy as principle that the participation in sports is what you considered an extension of, school outside the four walls of the educational institution. And that was something I always recalled, sports, you consider that to be just an extension of school outside, and you use the four walls. So whether it's at Queen's Park, it's a canteen, and whether it's football, whether it's netball, track and field, you consider that to be part of school, parts of the education system. Why? Why, sir?
Very important. Very, very important. The culture of a significant set of parents includes, and in regards education, includes that their sons and daughters should not be participating in sport when they send them in school. And so one had to take charge of that kind of thinking, because the sport was not divorced from the academic. The sport was the platform for the application of the academic while the child is in school. And so often you see everything on the field of sport relative to the application. And in fact, you see some things that you might never see in the classroom. There is a race in athletics, and the boy or girl gets injured. One of the athletes would stops to give a hand to the injured athlete, notwithstanding that he would forego or she would forego the possibility of earning a medal. Fair play. Play by the rules. Respect the officials in charge of the game. Work within the rules, but be smart. But at the same time, do not be mean. So, here is the cricketer, the bowler, runs up to bowl. This batsman takes a step or two, that's a non-striker, from the crease. You, the bowler, do not immediately knock out the bail so that the umpire must put him out. No, there's a way to do that. You would certainly bring it to the attention of the non-striking batsman. I see you doing something that is not in keeping with the conduct of this game. So please note that I saw. And even if he were to do it a second time, you might still ensure that you are in sync with good manners, with good conduct in the game. And if he were to do it a third time, well, 3 strikes, and then you expose yourself to be out. But that's the kind of application of the ingredients of education that the classroom and academic does not allow the students to realize. And so the sport must be a part of the education. And the sport cannot take place completely on the compound of the school. We have a basketball court. You could play basketball there. But there will be time when we have to take you beyond the basketball court to the Tantin Flats. Everybody reports there, not just the players, because the sport is incomplete without the support of the fellow students. The fellow students help to make the student sportsman stronger. And whether we go to Queen's Park, or whether we go to But Peters, whether we go to Alston George, whether we go to Paradise to play the SAS, or to St. Patrick to play the McDonald, the same discipline of sport, of school, attends the activity wherever we are. We go down to Point Saline to play the police, or we go to Queen's Park to play the prison officers. The same discipline that attends the scholarship attends the sport at the level of scholarship. And so the delivery was clearly defined. No sportsman of the GBSS saw sport as just sports. Every student sportsman of the GBSS saw sports as a major ingredient in his education, and sought to deliver sports as he is expected to deliver the academic in his education, as his parents demand and deserve. So you can't miss it. Sports is school, and often it is beyond the classroom and the compound. Table tennis is played in the auditorium. Some boys play table tennis in the classroom. But the ingredient of the sport, all that goes with making that sportsman, this sportsman that matter. And when I say sportsman here, I'm being generic. I am also focused on the sportswomen. So when I say sportsman, I mean sportswomen, because the GBSS is proud of its sportswomen. And I'm not talking adopted. I am talking real generic from Form 1 to Form 5. Classroom, it's sports. Is like a classroom beyond the compound or the classroom of the school. It's the same education that is being delivered. And that was respected by the parents and the guardians. And they all came around to understand the necessity of ensuring that they do not sing from a page for secondary education other than that which the GBSS was singing. Because at the GBSS, this is the page.
Yep. And the important thing to Mr. Ashby was, as you said, and it's not just, well, yeah, you made reference to the GBSS, but at the same time, there were a number of schools that, as you said, took a page, from the GBSS, from the GBSS book,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily so. Unnecessarily so.
Yeah. But how was it, Mr. Ashby, in terms of you had a sort of what will I call with the principals, a good rapport, I would say, with the principals around the island. GBSS was almost like the clearinghouse, and principals, they come there, especially around the INTERCOL and things like that. So, but how was the sort of relationship? How was the relationship as a principal at the GBSS and considered great rival to a lot of schools? How was the relationship with you and other principals around the island, Mr. Ashby?
I would describe it as good, very good in the most part, and functional in the odd part. I am sure you will ask for some justification.
Okay, well, yes, the why.
I am sure you would ask for some justification, so I better hasten. Because wherever you have a bastion performing position, such as GBSS had to be, you will find attendant grudge. Not necessarily based on the facts of any case, but that comes naturally. A political party wins 3 or 4 or 5 elections, you will also find that kind of reaction. Not necessarily that it merits any claim, but that reaction will be a part of the scenario. So you would have that very good category where the principals had no such consideration. They had no such consideration because it was all in order. That is the territory. Now listen to me. Listen, Michael. The GBSS is a special school. The GBSS was created, establishes the word, in 1885 for the education of all of the boys who were in Grenada from that time. And the boys in Grenada who were in Grenada at that time going forward were not necessarily Grenadians. And in fact, the GBSS as an institution educated boys from the OECS, Venezuelans, Trinidadians, you name it. So GBSS, a special established school with very special interest by the powers that be in Grenada, therefrom relative to its delivery capacity. Remember, Michael, the GBSS was a department of government. Of course, it's the only school so positioned. The GBSS was a department of government, which means at one time that it didn't have to scratch to find money to pay for any need. There was a fee, but that fee would have been insufficient to meet the cost of delivery of education at the GBSS. So it was a department of government. And it remained a kind of department of government up to 1979. And I make that point because it's a philosophical point. The revolution came into being in 1979. And the revolution could not support the practice of special, in this case, I'll say, special conditions for secondary schools. The revolution interest was across the board, egalitarianism. Every man, every son, every daughter, equal share of the pie, whatever the pie is. And so you would remember, I'm sure you would, that we legitimately had a combination of studentship, boys and girls.
Yeah. It's in the early 80s.
That's where we came from.
Yeah.
At the same time, St. Joseph's Convent, Grenville, had girls and boys.
Girls and boys. Yeah, there was the co-ed.
And there was the plan, which I knew, that PBC would have had boys and girls soonish after us. And Anglican and convent would have had girls and boys. We have the beautiful history of having managed boys and girls, then boys again. And I say beautiful because not many schools would have that as a record in its history. So the GBSS special established status allowed it, through its development, to be in a position where it had to be prepared to share with the requisite membership of all of the secondary schools which followed its establishment. These secondary schools, depending on the speed and patience and disposition, that some of them would have felt that the GBSS dominance was too strong. But it could not be avoided because GBSS is GBSS. And the GBSS will always demonstrate all that it is to demonstrate relative to its school song. And there is where the functional relationship comes. Because look out, you will find a secondary school here and a secondary school there would want the boys team to dominate in a sport, for example. But the GBSS will prepare hard, will play hard to the rules, and will deliver the best performances. And note, SAS, Cresswell Julian, was one of the very good relationships. One of the very good. And yet, SAS was a main rival in sport of the GBSS. Whether it be cricket, whether it be football, whether it be athletics, SAS and GBSS will do the absolute relative to this game. St. John, that St. John Christian,
yeah,
they come into play with tennis, table tennis, what we call ping pong, table tennis.
Yeah, the Waggy T and others.
Awagi T and others.
Yeah.
The redhead against the Thomases and Tron.
So, yeah.
Oh, dead serious. Wendell, yes. Then on top of that, of course, the PBC as when I say rival, I mean partnering along the way. That's what they did, really. Partner along the way. The PBC was always there from the start. The McDonald College. And so, and all of these have a very good relation.
Mm-hmm.
You will find the unnecessary order unnecessary because no need for. In that the GBSS was so well disposed to sharing, not just sharing resource, sharing in ideas, and sharing in strategies and so on, because the GBSS sought system development. And when all is said and done, we are satisfied that we managed to deliver to the degree that I would consider, in the main, all principles of the secondary schools to be good. And this is just relative to the social connection with the headmaster of the GBSS. But more than that, when it comes to the functional relation, functional education relation with the headmaster of the GBSS, I will consider it very, very good to outstanding.
Yeah. And you know, and glad you mentioned that, because there was also the on of recent, Mr. Ashby, you will have even the St. David's Catholic Secondary School of its own.
But that is in cricket.
And even and the girls' track and field as well.
The girls' track and field, they look in another direction. I mean, there's no way we could have quarreled in the performances of our girls, because they were powerhouse to our girls.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned how you went to the various schools, because you can call and point to probably just about each of the secondary schools. They have something about them.
Oh yeah,
as you said, McDonald College, and then there was even the Grenada 7-Day Adventist Comprehensive, who had a very good cricket team and volleyball.
Very good cricket team.
Yeah, and then there was also good.
and they broke up.
Right, and you know, and you can
Very
just
good.
continue looking at these schools. So it's important that you mention that. But Mr. Ashby, the concern about, and we had a parent, for example, who last week expressed concern that he has a daughter, and she's a very talented athlete, who is actually in Form 3 at the St. Joseph Convent, and she has not competed in an intercall since then. Well, she hasn't had the experience of an intercall because of what has
Reasonable.
been,
Or that,
because of
but
what
that's
has been
reasonable.
happening.
I
But
mean,
yeah, but
the parents shouldn't be too anxious.
yeah, but I'm saying, are you concerned that I mean, albeit you know we have the COVID this year,
Yeah, COVID.
that prior to COVID, we had the issue with the teachers and the union and the ministry, etc. That
Yeah.
you know, to some extent, that some of the students and student athletes in particular are being shortchanged as
No,
relative to intercall.
no, 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 no. That is just the mix of the times. In 2019, the teachers position needed such clear support that there was no other direction that the Grenada Secondary Schools Games Association could have gone and so to earn any merit in the sight of the teachers, but to be guided by the teachers' position. And you could not leapfrog that one. And that has nothing to do with, well, difficulty or regrets over the intercall. The intercall now is a part of a global national mix. That had to be respected. Then on top of that, as far as I know, everything was in sync for 2020 and again, in order to have any professional merit, such as the leadership and management of INTERCOL would claim, there's no other decision that could have been taken at that time relative to what's on the ground, the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not even saying that was unfortunate. From the individual's point of view, it looks like unfortunate, but that is the mix of the time. And that can happen in any setting and in any sphere. Of course, the talented child might lose the status of prep. Yes, might lose the status of prep, and INTERCOL 2021 might enter the arena as sub-junior. That is the mix. Don't fight that. Bottom line, with God's blessings, with God's blessings, 2021, 2022, she's still in Form 4. 2025, she is a fourth-year senior. Once she has the talent, she could compete with second and third-year seniors. She's good to go. Don't force and push to the degree where you might lose your footing. It is always better to move forward with consolidated steps than to leapfrog going forward. You will fall down.
All right. Oops, I had some. Let me see. Oh yeah, David was saying Wendell Thomas was a top table tennis player at the GBSS. You mentioned the Wendell Thomas, and then Toro is saying GBSS always produced great table tennis players. And he's saying those like Dennis Thomas, Brian, BJ John, Bees Wilson, Garth George.
Yeah.
So quite a few of them.
Yeah. I like that list.
Yeah, there's and you mentioned the GBSS, but recently, other schools have been what we would say outperforming the GBSS.
What do you mean by that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. In some areas, and to some extent, we have former students who actually the tradition of having your sons attend the GBSS. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned during the revolution, and I wanted to add to that we had the codes, for example, Abiola and Shola code. And then we also have Nisona Whiteman, the daughter of the late Unison Whiteman, who attended the GBSS. So, just to add the point of managing the girls at the time. Yeah, but former students, there's this tradition that as a past student, your son will follow and attend the GBS. But we have seen where others have decided to take their sons and no disrespect to the presentation college.
No.
College, but they have been doing that. So I'm speaking about outperforming, and in the sense of, at a generalized term, I'm using. Is there a concern, Mr. Ashby, that that tradition is being lost?
No. Things go in cycles most of the time. We see now where outstanding GBSS students of the past agreed with their sons to attend other secondary schools than a straight line to the GBSS. And you have to, in the main, you have to treat that for what the experience is. It is likeliest that that kind of choice relates purely to one factor, and that is comparison of the CXC results, and I would say that is in the main. Now, when we take education, when we take secondary education, there is no secondary school in Grenada that outperforms the delivery of secondary education. And I needn't say for boys, because that would be taking it into a zone. I am speaking secondary education. There are schools which specializes in the secondary education for girls. And as such, the GBSS cannot look to be tangling with them. They are girls. And I always believe that the secondary education for girls would have some ingredients that would be different to the secondary education for boys. But of course, the respective secondary school must be very mindful of the necessary input for both the boys and the girls, so as not to make the boys or the girls miss necessary steps in their development. And I'm not talking education development alone. I am talking social, physio, emotional. All of those are the developments are necessary to be considered in the delivery of the secondary education of both sexes. It can be attended to in one institution, but the institution must be particularly mindful that its package must deal with that kind of need for the girls and girls and boys together. And so the business of the GBSS old boys choice of alternative secondary school to the GBSS is a matter of a cycle. There will be the time, I would say, more in the immediate than in the long term, as we have begun to see in 2020, where of the most outstanding students, read the CHC, the GBSS tops the batch. So that's not a bad sign in order to balance the playing field in time again. Choice is always a good thing, and that you do not interfere with. Whatever, someone will find something compelling to make a choice other than that which you bargained for. I know very many families where boys, the first boy attended PBC, the second boy or the first boy attended GBSS, the second boy went to PBC, the third boy GBSS, the fourth boy the PBC. Choice. Same family, 8 boys, 7 boys, 6 boys. On top of that, do not underestimate the factor of choice which relates to church, religion. I am a Roman Catholic myself. But don't underestimate that choice or that factor. Don't underestimate that which might be suggested with that choice, a kind of halo of protection. The respective parent who sees that as an absolute necessity could make that choice even if he were a GBSS old boy. And that you have to grant. Now note, I said the secondary education. The secondary education is a far bigger package and a bigger consideration than that which I have mentioned as factors for that choice. I want to summarize that part by saying there is cycle. You will find that it will flow appropriately in good time, and I mean short time. And so that shouldn't remain, that might not remain. I don't expect it to remain issue going forward from more immediate than long-term time frames.
Yep. Yeah, that's well put together, sir. And getting into a personal question. So, have
Anytime.
you considered, Mr. Ashby, entering politics in Grenada? Have you been asked? well, ask could be general, but have you ever considered entering the political arena in Grenada?
Invited, asked, yes. More than once, yes. The answer, absolutely consistent. That which you have now is the answer, because it has always been a no. I consider the accreditation of my tenure at the various levels to be serious and need my choice protection. There is no way my role in politics would allow me to speak as openly and as completely as I now speak with you, without any fear to interfere with that other side of the development, the politics. I consider the politics to be a division, the politics to be a division, and it must be a division, because the politics goes with a party. The parties will wager. The wagering will relate to all kinds of ingredients where truth is never consistent. You will then become a victim to the science of the politics. And whether you win or you lose, you're not the same again. Of course, there must be politicians and there must be government, but one can serve government other than through the route of a politician and still be able to maintain and strengthen one's ability to deliver one's mission. I have never had an interest in the service of in that which the politician does. I was close to politics as a teacher. My uncle in Carriacou was a candidate. We had a very good relationship. His name is Charles Kayan. He was on the slate of the GULP. Our relationship included all kinds of debates because I couldn't see how he could do that. And I shared that with him. And he could have left that as something that I must continue with. The dedication that education requires, that education must be very clear that there is no compromise to the quality of its delivery. No one could claim a political tangent to that which was done. No one could claim any political tangent to that which was done with my sojourn in education, be it Hillsborough Primary School, be it St. David. I'm talking the current RC school that is now the current government school. No one can claim that. No one can claim that for the GBSS. No one can claim that in the Westmoreland School. No, very, very clear path that has no straddles with politics. And I consider that dedication in education to be current. And in order for my continuance with the empowerment of all the students I have served, all the students I have served in my 50 years of service to the education development of Grenada, I must continue to allow the politician aspect in development to be dealt with by others.
Okay, well, Mr. Ashby, and probably if you spare me 2 minutes out of we have some more minutes remaining, but I need just about 2 minutes because, as you say, in dedication to all the students you have served over your tenure in terms of well, not just the GBSS.
No.
Yeah, overall. But
overall.
I would say in this case, particularly to the GBSS, it may
well,
because there's something special about
that's the lion part.
Yeah. Right. So in dedication, just spare me 2 minutes and we'll be back in a moment.
No,
Indeed, Mr. Ashby.
you could have taken 4 minutes, man.
I wanted just about 2 because I know it was well, almost 11 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it was 2009, and it was your time when they were saying farewell to
saying
you.
Thanks and farewell.
Yes, farewell, and I mean,
not only to me, not only to me, because because I couldn't do that which I did
without Mrs. Ashby.
Not only Mrs. Ashby, without the family. Because I mean, I had a complete family during my tenure at the GBSS.
Yeah, she was there, and it was touching. Yeah.
Oh, she is Bastion stalwart. Bastion stalwart. I mean, that is what you call united in vision and mission, purpose, and goal.
Yeah.
And that's a real example of marriage forward march.
Yeah. And when I saw that, and when I thought about it too, I recall Sir Walter St. John, and it's a similar thing with Yvonne. With Yvonne,
Oh yeah.
And Mrs. Ashby is always there at your side. She's always willing to assist, and she was like the second mother of the GBSS. The GBSS.
And she was not just willing to assist, she was always ready and act assistance. Yeah.
So let's say hello to some of. I noticed that the girls were very, and it seems, Mr. Ashby, because I know when you came up to New York to be part of the GBSS Old Boys, the Alumni Association, how the girls came out. The girls seem to be very.
Yeah, the girls are special.
And it's so nostalgic.
That's the only era where the GBSS can really claim its unity with Grenada's total development. Very special.
Yep, and indeed, and it seems as if whenever that song, the school song, is played, and the school song is used, not only by the GBSS, because I heard, even Mr. Patrick Simmons, the former sports minister, in fact, it was during a budget presentation when he was a minister, used portions of the GBSS school song. He quoted the GBSS.
He heard it enough at INTERCOL.
Yeah, as a SAS boy, former principal of the SAS of SAS.
Of course.
So there is something about the GBSS school song that really threw a lot of nostalgic. And Mr. Robert Phillip himself is saying 1 year, Mrs. Ashby prepared all the meals for the INTERCOL team,
particularly those. And I'm sure he wants to add, we used to have a camp.
Right, the camp for INTERCOL, right?
For INTERCOL. And she prepared all the meals for the entire time of the camp as well.
Yeah. So I think he refers to her as the Empress.
I mean, and I will say that is in a good direction.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Ashby. Our 2 hours. I mean, we have so much that we could have, talk about, but it was.
Don't tell me 2 hours have gone.
Yes, it is. It's so refreshing.
Yeah,
to
really good,
to see you, and to share. And I'm certain that as we reflect, we will remember so many other things that. The rich history of the GBSS that a 2-hour program certainly cannot deal with that. And
in fact, I haven't even gotten to Michael Ashby's page.
Look at that.
And remember, he is also part of that family support.
Yep. Yes. I
Oh
want to
yeah,
thank.
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah,
thank
yeah.
him. I want to
And
thank
I
him
mean
for.
direct.
Yes, I want to thank him for assisting a lot, and I want to also thank Vern. Vern has been very
Yeah, no.
technically. She seems to be gifted. Yeah,
This is their time. This is their time. You just leave them alone to do what they do.
yeah.
And I came home. I came home from the country today, and she would say to me, she gave me instructions.
Yes.
Everything was ready to go.
Yeah, and let's before we get out, Mr. Ashby, I must put in some of those comments from coming in. Mackie Griffith, yeah,
Oh, Mackie,
so
man.
you know, Mr. Mackie
Oh
Griffith.
yeah, please.
Yeah, Bascom, great program as usual. Please convey warm greetings and deep appreciation to Mr. Ashby.
Yeah, excellent boy.
Yes, Mackie and Johnny Simon certainly
Very well.
he's remembering those camp days.
Yeah, camp days, man.
Yeah. Robert is saying, Philip is saying, camp days were very, very. It was wonderful. And
Robert, yeah.
Jacinta is now coming in with the Archer. You know,
Archer, yes.
She wants to know where is her Archer people. You mentioned cricket, Mr. Ashby, and
yes,
you know,
Nash
right, Nash Jones, you know, and
Monjaloo.
that's it. Indeed. So there was always this toggle too, Mr. Ashby, between school and club, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, school and club, you know.
Very well.
Yes. One of those. Robert Phillip is saying Archer House is in the house.
Yes,
you know. Let me make sure. Oh, Joel Phillip, the Intercol camp was the most legendary time I've had before and during competition. Yes. Wonderful memories indeed.
Very well.
I think a lot of those guys look forward to this, you know, the Intercol camp, and then
very well
marching on to the Queen's Park.
Very well,
and things like that. So lots of comments now flowing in. But I want to thank you, Mr. Ashby. It has been a pleasure. And I want to once again convey appreciation to the entire family, Vern, Mrs. Ashby, everyone for the assistance. And hopefully in the new year, we can probably have a part 2, you know?
I think, yeah, because there is that part that relates to, there is the talk that boys are not delivering as strongly as we expect them to in the total package of education these days as against other days. And that's a page that I would want to address, because a lot of critical empowering is necessary.
Yeah, well, and I still want to encourage you, Mr. Ashby. The book has to come.
Yeah, it has to come, but remember, it has to come at that level that requires the long wait.
Yes, the long wait, but we can't wait too long, Mr. Ashby.
I know.
You know,
no, there is no wait that is too long. There is no wait that is too long, because everything we do has a kind of divine providential guidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I think for many of the folks, they will think you know, you're still sharp, you know. There's still the sharpness of Mr. Ashby, you know.
Yeah. I exercise a lot.
Good to know.
You saw my message when.
Yes.
You saw my message.
I saw your message. I got the message.
I don't only go there to sample the air at the mountain. I'm on the ground in the mountain. Yeah, and so yeah, I keep well, I would say briefed, because you need to be in sync with current and the information and all of that. And also I do as much as I can relative to the research and the readings and so on. So I kind of know much more of all of the students around you and in Canada and in England and on the ground in Grenada than you would ever be able to have a program to accommodate. And I am talking current. I'm talking current. I ain't talking history. I'm talking current. So I am to ask all of my students of all of the years, from Hillsborough Government to Westmoreland Secondary, to please forever be strident in your process towards delivering the highest that you can attain in every sphere of life. And I can say to them, do the politics for me. Those who are at that kind of level, do the politics, because you help to change the world, not just Grenada. And in these times, the politics in the United States needs a lot of reinforcing.
Yeah, well, indeed, indeed, Mr. Ashby, and so many, the comments are coming in so much, but I have one that I have been reading off Valerie Cornwall. Val Cornwall, saying the
Really?
shortest 2 hours I have ever had.
Really?
I have ever, yeah, very interesting and nostalgic, but it seemed as if she wanted more, you know?
Yeah.
She wanted more.
I thank her.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Ashby, and
welcome.
I appreciate. Thank you very much.
Yes, and really, two terms for program, audience, your good self, not just for now, but going forward. And also, you don't go forward without looking at where you have come from.
Yes. Okay, then. I want to thank you once again, Mr. Ashby.
You're welcome, man.
Okay, then. All right.
And as I will always say, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, good, man.
Yeah. Okay, then. Folks, as you heard it there, that's from Mr. Victor Ashby. And indeed, it was, a very, very interesting 2 hours from Mr. Ashby, and I know that folks will be saying that he has to come back. It's still coming in. One of my favorite quotes from Mr. Ashby cannot quote, and Joel Phillip is saying you cannot be in the cane field and the coal field at the same time. Yes, all right, Joel. I know you caught that one. And Johnny Simon, it was a pleasure to serve with Mr. Ashby as a teacher at the GBSS, and years as a student was amongst the best in my life. And Jacinta is saying, thanks, Michael. Nash, it was great pleasure. We definitely need to have him back. Yes, we will have him back. Thanks, Mike. Very much so. We had 2 hours of Mr. Ashby, and I think from what we're hearing there, we'll have to make arrangement to have sometime in the new year, after the whole hustle and bustle, because a very important point Mr. Ashby was making in terms of the young men, and I think we need to give him that time that he can speak about, because it's important, especially for sports, right? We cannot look at sports just as sports as how we see it now, we have to look at how it's affecting, what is affecting sports too. And I know we didn't even get to speak about cricket, West Indies cricket in particular, cricket locally. Mr. Ashby had a lot to play in the lives of local cricketers. He mentioned on the surface the Junior Murray, the Devon Smith, the Raw Lewis and others, but there's so many others who came through the ranks, and even not through the GBSS, through his tenure at the Grenada Cricket Association, because he was a live wire of the Grenada Cricket Association, and during his time, along with Sir Walter St. John, Cecil Greenwich, and others, they played tremendous part in the development of cricketers, some of them who are seen today who are excelling, and those who are even administrators. Mr. Ashby was around. The late Kenny Hobson will tell you that, Riff Crony, Steve Mahon. I mean, I don't want to start calling names because that's a separate program, but I want to thank you folks for being part of that, and thank you for viewing, and don't forget to join us on Thursday. Coach Dennis Williams will be on the program on Thursday from 6:30 Eastern time. That's 7:30 Grenada time when she will join us. And then next Saturday, join us for another program where we will be joined by former president of the Grenada Athletic Association. It was then the Grenada Amateur Athletic and Cycling Association, Mr. Bobby Benjamin. He will be joining us live from Trinidad for that program. So once again, thank you for being with us, and hope to see you on Thursday, 6:30 in the PM, where we will have Miss Denise Williams. First, Miss Denise Williams. She will be on the program, and then the following Saturday, Mr. Bobby Benjamin. Don't forget, we also have an open discussion coming up. We try to have it once per month. So on the 19th will be an open discussion where you can call in and discuss anything you want. So once again, thank you very much for being part of our program. Until then, stay positive, test negative.